Hi everybody, Armine Bazikian here. This month I wanted to talk to you guys about 5 myths that I hear all the time that are simply not true with respect to estate planning. So let's dive right in. The first one that I hear all the time is the statement that, I'm too young, I don't need to create an estate plan. I'm young and invincible, essentially. And this is just simply not true. We know that death and incapacity can knock at anyone's front door, irrespective of age. So age is simply not a factor when we are creating an estate plan, because of the facts that death and incapacity can occur to anyone. So we don't take into consideration age. More so we look at the type of assets that you have and the type of planning that you want done for the people that you're leaving behind. So it's completely irrelevant how old you are in this scenario. The second myth that I hear all the time is the belief that, well, I'm not very wealthy, I don't need anything in place, I just don't have that much stuff anyway. But this is also not true. An estate plan is not just for people that are wealthy. An estate plan is for anybody that wants to make life for their loved ones easy in the future if they were to become incapacitated or pass on. So if you care about what happens to your loved ones, if you had passed on, or worse, if you were incapacitated, then you need some sort of planning done. Now, it could be a very basic estate plan. It doesn't have to be very complicated. It all depends on what your particular scenario is. So for example, a 26-year-old might need a simple estate plan in place with an emphasis on powers of attorney documents. So even though she might not have a lot of wealth, or she might have no wealth at all, she might want to make plans for what happens if she's incapacitated. It could be temporary incapacity, she's just temporarily not able to take care of herself for a little bit. She can plan to have her parents step in and access her bank accounts and make medical decisions for her. So it could be a very simple estate plan like the one I just described, and it could go all the way and be a very complicated one that takes into consideration various properties, various business interests. So wealth is also not a factor, just like age. It's irrelevant how wealthy you are. The fact remains that everybody needs some type of planning done in this area. The third one is the belief that, if I create a will, I'm going to avoid the probate process. And this is simply not true. We've discussed this in previous videos. They're on the website if you want to check them out in more detail. But creating a will does not in any way avoid the probate process. You're still going to go through this probate process. You're still going to incur tons of costs, and it's going to be public, and it's going to take a really long time, and you're going to do nothing with the will that you've created. You're still going to go through this process that you created the will to avoid in the first place. So this is a very, very common myth that I hear all the time. So simply not true. If you have a will, you're still going through that probate process, okay? The fourth thing that I hear all the time is that if you have nothing in place, the state of California will get everything. Will get all of your hard-earned assets that you've worked really hard to acquire throughout these years. And that's also not true. So what will happen if you have nothing in place? As we learned in a few videos back, you will actually go through a probate process, and the judge will look at the intestacy laws in California to determine who gets your stuff. And the intestacy laws normally go through the next of kin. So it'll be parents, siblings, and yada, yada, yada. So it'll go down the line of who's your next closest relatives. So in the rare instance that you have no family, no relatives, then of course the state of California would step in and get all of your hard-earned assets, which is all the more reason to create an estate plan if you fall within that category of not having a lot of family in your life, because if you create an estate plan, you can actually designate a close friend or a boyfriend, girlfriend to actually inherit your assets versus it just automatically going to the state because you have no family around. So keep that in mind if you're an individual who doesn't have a lot of family in your life. The fifth myth that I hear all the time is that I don't need a lawyer. I can totally do this myself. I can create a will myself. I can get an estate plan. downloaded and done through the internet, which is absolutely not true. There's a reason why, you know, attorneys like myself have experience and work in this field. There's just simply too many laws for you to know and research and look into yourself, and there's too many complicated legal issues at play with respect to everyone's estate plan for you to address. So you absolutely need to consult with an attorney. There's just too much out there for you to know about, and the attorney like myself would be experienced in this field and would spot those issues during a conversation and know exactly the type of trust to create for you and the type of provisions to create within the trust or within the estate plan. So it's very, very important. An example of this, a good example would be, you know, you go out, you create your own estate plan, which includes a trust and a will and powers of attorney documents and whatnot, and you leave your estate to your child who is special needs and receives government assistance. So what will happen when you pass on is your child will inherit, you know, your small fortune, but they will also inherit problems with that because they will now be disqualified from government benefits. So in that scenario, what an attorney would do is create a specialized trust for your child called a special needs trust to hold that money in place, allowing your child to continue receiving benefits and receive their inheritance at the same time. So that's just a really good example of the types of laws and the types of complicated issues that might be at play that you would not know about at all, that you can totally you know, that could totally cause problems down the line. So you may think that you're saving some money by doing it yourself and not consulting with an attorney, but I promise you, in the back end for your children and your loved ones, you will be causing them a lot of headache and actually a lot more money in the back end. So please consult with an attorney. But those are my that was my fifth tip or fifth myth that I wanted to debunk. These are the 5 things that I hear all the time that I wanted to address for you guys. If you want to discuss any of them specifically, feel free to get in contact with me. If you would like to schedule a free consultation with me, go ahead and contact our office, and I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and, you know, discuss things that are specific to your family and your needs and the types of assets that you have. And I'd love to help you put together a plan in place. Other than that, thank you for joining me, and I will see you next month. Bye.